Story 1. Daniel Alexander was a Swiss native who worked as an airport protocol officer in Zurich. He aimed to work as a pilot but became a mere officer that arranged travelers and their luggage. Daniel worked at a company that focused on intercontinental passenger transport. Surprisingly, he hadn't traveled beyond his country's borders. Unfortunately, this prevented him from fully indulging in his greatest passion, swimming. In his landlocked homeland, he had only experienced the joy of swimming within the confines of swimming pools. However, an intense desire resided within him, fueling a longing to explore distant shores. This desire compelled him to visit neighboring countries like France or Italy, where he dreamed of immersing himself in the vast oceans of Marseille or Naples. Unlike most people, Daniel worked towards his dream by saving up from his salary. He had planned on saving for 3 years to afford a good 2-week vacation in Italy or France. Fortunately, he had saved up for a year before the airport authorities increased staff salaries, allowing him to save up for 1 more year before using his leave period for vacation. As he drove to the airport, this time as a traveler, Daniel reflected on his journey. He had been very hard-working, securing a job for himself despite many others vying for the position. And now he was sponsoring himself on vacation to one of the top countries in the world, France. Daniel felt a sense of excitement mixed with nervousness and anticipation as he entered the airplane. He was flooded with wonder as he realized he was about to experience an extraordinary adventure, envisioning the type of places he would explore and the people he would meet. Although he had been entering the plane earlier, it was nothing like this. The hostess attending to him before the flight gave him a feeling of achievement. On entering the plane, he was lucky to sit beside the window thinking about the exhilarating experiences he would have during the vacation. He looked through the window, appreciating nature till the plane taxied down the runway of Marseille. Daniel lodged in a beach hotel on the picturesque beach of Marseille and asked for a guide. The guide, Theo, asked him things he would like to do while in France, to which he answered that he would like to try French delicacies. Theo took him to a French restaurant where he had bouillabaisse, French onion soup, and chocolate soufflé. While eating, he asked Theo if he was a good swimmer because he wanted to learn the art of swimming before traveling back to Zurich. Theo replied that he could swim but was not an expert. However, he would introduce a swimmer to him the next day. He dropped him at his hotel while he sped off. During the evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Daniel was drawn to the beach he overlooked through his hotel room. He went to the shore, removed his shoes, and walked on the sandy white beach. With each step, his toes sank into the warm sand with a sense of calmness enveloping him. The gentle caresses of the sand between his toes were grounding and invigorating. After a while, he sat on a beach chair overlooking the natural water until dusk. He dared not venture into it as he knew nothing about swimming. Theo came with an expert swimmer the next day, as promised. Eduardo was an expert who had won various prizes for his act, so it was a rare privilege that he was the one to train Daniel. They strolled from the hotel to the beach. Daniel wasn't fluent in French, so Theo interpreted everything he said to Eduardo. Impressed by Daniel's enthusiasm and eagerness, Eduardo was happy to pass on some of the knowledge he had gained over years of experience. Daniel and Eduardo changed into their swimsuits while Theo watched. Seconds later, he changed into his. He didn't want to be left out. The trio waded into the gentle waves, where Eduardo began teaching Daniel the fundamental swimming techniques, with Theo swimming away. Throughout the lesson, Eduardo emphasized the importance of understanding the ocean's behavior. Daniel listened with rapt attention and steadily grew more confident with each passing moment. After the lesson, it was time for practice. Daniel glided into the shallow water slowly, but seeing Eduardo going very fast, he tried to copy him. He swam with all his might towards Eduardo, but didn't catch up with him. Eduardo reached the demarcated line in the ocean and turned back, swimming toward the shore. Before Daniel could maneuver his way back, Eduardo had reached the shore waiting for him. Theo stood on the shore, dressed up and ready for their upcoming visit to the golf course after their swimming lesson. Exhausted from his first swimming, Daniel took it easy and waded in the water while the duo kept a watchful eye on him. Unknown to him, a shark was also gliding toward him. However, it was too late when Theo alerted him of the danger. The great white shark had sunk its teeth into his thigh. Shock and pain coursed through Daniel's body as the force of the bite propelled him backward. He uttered a terrifying scream, making Theo and Eduardo enter the water to save him. Being a rookie, he didn't know how to free himself from the beast's jaw, but still, he kept hitting its head, which did nothing to the predator. The 10-foot white shark unleashed another bite on his calf, which led to another excruciating cry. Theo and Eduardo swam frantically toward him, with one of them holding a golf club. The shark could not lacerate any of these parts, so it went for Daniel's ankle. By this third bite, Daniel was as good as dead. His cry shook the ocean, and tourists gathered around the shore looking at the unfortunate incident. Some of them had called the ambulance in case Daniel survived the attack and, if not, to transport his body. Theo and Eduardo got to his side, with Theo swinging the club at the shark and Eduardo trying hard to pry the predator's mouth open. The shark opened its mouth a little but quickly bit onto Daniel's ankle again. It wanted to chop off Eduardo's hand, but he quickly pulled his hand away, so the sharp teeth landed on helpless Daniel's leg. Theo intensified his effort and kept hitting the shark with the club until the shark let go of Daniel and retreated. But it didn't do that immediately. It launched another attack on the same spot on Daniel's ankle, determined to chop it off. But Theo hit its gill, which made the shark retreat into the water. Daniel was carried ashore and into the ambulance to a hospital. He was treated for all the bites from the shark's attack. Upon getting discharged, Daniel returned to his hotel to continue his vacation. Determined not to squander his hard-earned money, he decided to avoid venturing into the ocean again. Instead, Eduardo took on the role of teaching him the art of swimming in the safe confines of a swimming pool. Story 2. Bruno and Guimarães were two sophomore students at a university in Portugal. Like many other students, they were tied down with assignments, group works, projects, etc. One day, they decided to take a break from their always demanding study and have fun without spending much. What would they do? A thought came to Bruno's mind that they should go to Lisbon Beach and have fun. He told Guimarães that he had been learning to ski from his brother at a local pool, so he wanted to try it on the vast water. They boarded a cab to the always bubbling ocean of Lisbon. Being natives of Lisbon, Bruno knew their way around the beach as they had visited many times. On the other hand, Guimarães, a Brazilian studying in Portugal, was unfamiliar with the country's stunning beaches. Excitement filled the air as Guimarães and Bruno arrived at the beach. The sun was shining gloriously, and the rhythmic crashing of waves called out to them. They believed it was going to be an adventure-filled day. Upon reaching the beach, they went to a rental booth, where they rented a pair of skis and a motorboat. While walking towards the shoreline, Guimarães noticed a group of experienced water skiers preparing their equipment for a thrilling water skiing adventure. The curiosity of competing against the best got into Bruno, and they went towards them. Approaching them, Bruno asked permission to join on their exhilarating adventure, which they allowed. The group also shared the necessary skiing knowledge with Bruno. Grateful for the guidance, Bruno and Guimarães quickly geared up, strapped on their life jackets and set with their water skis. Bruno and Guimarães took their positions on the skis, eagerly awaiting the moment they would be propelled across the water's surface. Immediately, the motorboat accelerated. They clung tightly to the tow rope and plunged forward, feeling the powerful force of water underneath their skis. Being somewhat of rookies, they were left far behind in the first lap of the race. The other competitors had already crossed the finish line while they were still in the midst of their race. However, they grew more confident with each passing moment. Guimarães wasn't interested in the race, but in how the water felt on his body. The wind whipped through his hair and the salty mist kissed his face as he navigated the waves. He shared laughter with his friend, their spirits lifted by the adrenaline rush and the sheer thrill of their activity. As they carved through the water, they felt a sense of freedom, having escaped the demands of academic pursuits. Unlike the other skiers who had returned to the shore, Bruno and Guimarães remained on the water. They still enjoyed skiing through the water and cheering out loud. Meanwhile, a shark was lurking around the area, but they didn't notice because they were busy having fun. Before they knew it, the shark forcefully rammed into Bruno's ski board, and he lost the tow rope. Baffled about what could have happened, the white shark sank its teeth into his arm and he screamed. Guimarães was alerted by the scream, so he decelerated his towboat and led it back to his friend to check on what could have happened. Approaching Bruno, he saw the huge shark clamping onto his arm. Despite the immense pain, Bruno's quick thinking allowed him to use his free hand to hit the shark's sensitive snout, causing it to release its grip. However, before he could fully recover from the attack, another shark sensed the commotion and joined the chaotic frenzy, sinking its sharp teeth into Bruno's leg. Bruno's heart was pounding in his chest as adrenaline rushed through his veins. He fought back with all his might, throwing blows and strikes at the shark, but none of it made the predator back out. Guimarães was afraid as he saw another shark join the struggle, so he quickly maneuvered his towboat to hit the shark at its vulnerable spot. The shark retreated and swam away. The duo thought the battle had ended, but it was a lie. Guimarães looked on and saw another shark gliding toward them. He told Bruno to swim ashore while he scared the beast away. He charged his towboat toward the predator while Bruno painfully swam ashore with blood dripping from the bite. Bruno knew sharks were attracted to blood, so he didn't want to slow down despite being extremely spent. Guimarães showed bravery by charging toward the shark. He wasn't an expert in skiing, but the situation had instilled an extraordinary sense of responsibility in him, which made him maneuver the water expertly. He had a broken part of Bruno's ski with him, which he had picked up after the second shark retreated. He planned on using it to kill the shark if possible. He couldn't let the predator attack his friend once again. A meter into colliding with the predator, he maneuvered the towboat to the right and held out the sharp edge of the broken ski, which tore through the shark's side. He then changed his direction and sped off toward the shore. The shark was injured, so Guimarães knew it couldn't charge after him. Still, he didn't stop until he reached the shore. By the time he got out of the water, Bruno had been transported to the hospital to treat his wounds. He also went to the hospital to treat himself for minor injuries and stress from the water brawl. News about his dangerous but praiseworthy exploit with the shark spread around the city. The authorities lauded Guimarães for his courage against the huge predator, and he was granted citizenship of Portugal by nationalization, which is usually considered after 5 years. Bruno had over 20 bites from the predator from which he was treated. After a week, he was discharged and returned to the university with his friend Guimarães. They returned to tough academic work, but Bruno was grateful he could return. He was particularly grateful to Guimarães for his act of bravery. Months after the incident, they did exams and moved to their 3rd year at the university. With 1 more year to go, Bruno and Guimarães' friendship grew tighter. Story 3. Edwin always wanted to make history in everything, especially his academic pursuit. He was the first person in his municipality, Bergijk, to get a scholarship to the university in Amsterdam, and also the youngest to be admitted to the university. At 23 years old, he had completed his doctorate as a marine biologist, but he was yet to be conferred a professorship which he yearned for so much. To expedite his progress, his university professor advised him to engage in research activities to enhance his knowledge. Furthermore, the professor suggested selecting a nearby city for his research to minimize stress and alleviate any associated challenges. Instead of exploring the Hague Beach and other numerous beaches in the Netherlands, Edwin traveled to the South American country of Suriname to conduct his research. He believed the waters in the Netherlands had been explored many times, whereas the waters in Suriname remained relatively uncharted and rarely ventured into. On June 13, 1990, Edwin took a 10.5-hour flight from Amsterdam to Paramaribo to conduct his research. On getting there, he lodged in a hotel and set out to learn about the town's culture. Wanting to gain the trust of the locals, he immersed himself in their local culture, connected with the community, and learned from their deep-rooted knowledge of the sea. The warm-hearted locals welcomed him with open arms, shared their stories and traditions, and even took him swimming in the lake with wild dolphins. However, Edwin knew he didn't come from the Netherlands to Suriname to explore lakes or play with dolphins. Those were abundant in his country. He came to do something extraordinary, which was to explore the ocean and its deep-sea creatures. Edwin explored the sea the next day, armed with his research equipment and eagerness to study and document the unique ecosystem. Edwin watched as he approached the water's edge, and the waves rhythmically crashed against the shore. The sound of the crashing waves filled his ears as he closed his eyes, feeling nature unfold before him. On opening his eyes, Edwin marveled at the vastness of the beach and ocean that stretched before him. Beaches in the Netherlands had been explored multiple times and turned into market hubs, but nature was still intact here. After marveling at nature, he set out to do what he came for, venturing into the ocean's depths that held various mysteries. After gearing up, he waded into the water, feeling its cool embrace wrap around his ankles, calves, and entire body. He would have been shivering without the swimsuit, which worked wonders for him. He immersed himself in the challenging and awe-inspiring world underneath the waves, and continued exploring with ease. However, fate turned unexpectedly when Lucas found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. The serene ocean began to change. Dark clouds loomed overhead, and a distant rumble signaled the approach of a storm. Edwin tried to rise from the water and swim to the shore, but the waves became so strong that he couldn't glide. Edwin fought to regain control, with the powerful current threatening to sweep him away. After some minutes of fighting against the ocean current, the storm died. Edwin heaved a sigh of relief and began swimming toward the beach, planning to return the next day, presumably with a local. However, he didn't know that he had become the target of a ferocious bull shark, resulting in a sudden and terrifying attack. The 10-foot-long shark clamped its razor-sharp teeth around his leg. He cried, but no one could hear him since no one was at the beach. In a desperate struggle for survival, Edwin summoned extraordinary courage and presence of mind. With acute pain sweeping over his body, he used every ounce of strength to fight against the powerful beast, using his marine knowledge to target its vulnerable spots. He continued hitting the shark's gill while the shark continued to bite. After a while, the shark released its grip, and Edwin managed to free himself with blood all over his left leg. He had freed himself from the shark, but the shore was still far away. With the threat of the shark coming after him, Edwin embarked on an arduous journey back to the shore, battling through exhaustion and waves which increased his pain with every surge. Throughout his journey back to the shore, Edwin's determination was fueled by memories of his family and loved ones, and his will to survive. Upon reaching the shore, he limped far from the shoreline and fell in pain. He groaned loudly to alert anyone nearby because he was completely spent and suffering from excessive blood loss, which could lead to death. Fortunately, a fisherman who had gone fishing on the far side of the ocean and was packing his fish onto his tricycle heard the groan. After contemplating, the man summoned courage and drove his machine over. Upon arriving, he quickly descended, carried Edwin on the fish in the cargo compartment, and drove him to the nearest hospital. He spent a week at the hospital nursing his injuries, but fearing he may not receive adequate health care in the developing country, he canceled his stay visa and traveled back to the Netherlands. He got admitted to a hospital in Amsterdam where he received adequate treatment. A week after admission, he was discharged with crutches to aid his walking. Edwin was also placed on a rehabilitation schedule that worked well and could walk after a month. Edwin was plagued by fear and a sense of injustice as he recovered from his physical injuries. While struggling to survive the shark attack back in Suriname, he had even cursed himself in marine biology as a profession, saying he would never venture into the sea nor practice the profession again. However, his desire and curiosity to study the behavior, patterns, and ecological significance sea creatures hold in maintaining a healthy marine ecosystem pushed him back into his research. He completed it successfully in his country without any mishaps. Edwin now finds solace in narrating his story to his students during lectures,